Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jerry Kuykendall here with Biohacking Truth, where we lead you on a journey of self-discovery and inspired action so you can live a life of maximum fulfillment, pain-free fitness and longevity, and look great naked. So, guys, our mission really is to share the secrets of health and wellness with you, and basically the big secret is that you are of no use to the doctor and the medical community if you heal yourself. It makes a lot more sense for them to keep you coming back week after week, year after year. I'm not saying that's intentional. I'm just saying that that's the way the business model works. So the truth about health and wellness, guys, is that once you get down to the root cause, you can fix this stuff. And in particular, today we're going to talk about posture. So in this video, we're going to talk about posture, some of the causes of poor posture, some of the relief positions of poor posture, and then we'll get into some of the anatomical features real quick to kind of explain to you what might be going on. So first of all, I'd like to start off with this example, this diagram of some of the common postural pathologies that are out there. So if you notice here in A, you've got the perfectly aligned posture. In B, what got here is a kyphotic lordotic posture. This could be also known as layered syndrome, but basically you've got hyperkyphosis, which is this rounded upper back, and hyperlordosis, which is a reverse curvature here on the lumbar spine. So these are the normal curves of the spine, but these are hyper exaggerated. And then here we've got a flat back. So basically there's no curve in the spine. So as you can see, just like almost a rounded effect here. And then this is a sway back. So we call this a sway back. Basically you've got hyperlordosis up here going on. And then down here you got weak lumbar spine, and the hips like shoot forward type flexors and whatnot. So as you can see here, nobody besides picture A is in alignment. Okay, so if you can see what's going on here, we got all sorts of different shapes of the spine. So if we go over and look at what's responsible for keeping the spine in alignment, you've got your inner core muscles on the front and the back here, and just briefly. So all these inner unit muscles that we've discussed in other videos, you got your TBA, your internal obliques, and your psoas, iliacus muscles here. And on the back, you've got your glutes, you've got your erectors, you've got, and then up here where we can't see, you've got your lower traps and your cervical muscles here. A little more of that. And then down here, we've got our pelvic floor. So this is just underneath the pelvis here. And this really helps secure everything, really aids in the compression of the organ cavity when we're under load. And over here we've got the ligamentous structure here. So this is a very, very important part of the spine here. This is the ligamentum nucha, starts right up here, okay, and it ties in at the base of the skull, goes all the way down to C7T1, and then it turns into the supraspinous ligament that runs down the back of the spine. And so if you look at here, here's an image of a portion of the spine. So if you notice here, here's the vertebrae. You've got the transverse processes here, and then if you notice right back here is that supraspinous ligament. So that runs all the way up the back, and then in front of the spine, you've got this anterior longitudinal ligament. So what happens is the supraspinous actually gets stretched out, so it gets lengthened, and this gets shortened and tightened. An additional side effect, we won't go too much into it in this video, but this ALL, the anterior longitudinal ligament, is tied into your nervous system as well. And so if this thing gets shortened too much, then you have a danger of being stuck in a sympathetic dominant state, which is fight or flight stress. All right, so that's a brief overview of the anatomy. Okay, so why is posture so important? Okay, so the answer to that question really is the importance of posture is for the protection of your spine. And so if you take a look at right here, we got a scoliosis, okay, sway back, flat back, kyphosis, lordosis, and neutral spine. But if you take a look at this, imagine this is like a load-bearing column, which it is, okay? And if you were to build, say, a building, okay, you would want that building stacked, right, so that the engineering of the building made each portion above the foundation is going to be supporting the sturdiness of that structure as opposed to adding to the instability of the structure. Now, if you think about Jenga, the game of Jenga, when you first start, Jenga's not missing any blocks and it's a perfectly sound structure. That thing is really sound. But as soon as you remove a little piece, it loses stability, and another piece it loses stability, and actually you just keep adding instability to the column until someone causes the column to crash. So if you imagine each one of these dysfunctions is like taking Jenga blocks out of the Jenga stack, okay? And more importantly as well, as these get out of alignment, they're not able to thoroughly transfer load efficiently like they're supposed to. So like I said, it's a load-bearing column, and it's just like anything else. If you've got a certain shape to where it's stacked to where it can support weight and can support load, then that structure is sound. But you move that structure just out of alignment just a little bit, and you start putting load and stretch and tension in areas that it shouldn't be experiencing, and that's when things creep in, like back pain and whatnot. All right, so what are the common causes of faulty posture? Well, basically, the easiest answer for that is it's just an RC factor issue. So RC factor is resistance contraction. So in each muscle group, there's an antagonistic muscle group. So for everything in the front, there's something in the back. For everything on the side, there's something on the other side, and those are supposed to balance each other out. And then the total length tension relationship of all those muscle groups, all those protagonistic and antagonistic muscle groups, okay, the sum total of their RC factor, their resistance contraction factor, their length tension strength relationships, all that added up is the sum, basically equivalent of your total ability to be stable. And so where that goes sideways or where that goes haywire is when we get improper length tension relationships. So a perfect example would be, we see this a lot in the kyphotic posture here, right? This is the cell phone posture right here. And basically, what causes that is just being in one position too long. And so, like I've mentioned in previous videos, if you think about like what braces do to the teeth, okay, braces, they go on the teeth and they provide steady, constant, gentle pressure to get the shape that we want in our teeth. Well, the same thing's going on with your back. So if you're prolonged periods of sitting and hunched over like this, maybe you work a desk job, maybe you like to read a lot, maybe you're on your phone a lot, whatever the case may be. But really what you're doing is you're putting braces on your spine when you do that. Okay, and what are some of the big negative effects or unwanted effects of poor posture? So obviously pain, that's the first thing. Okay, the first signal that we all get real familiar with is pain. But some of the signals you might be unfamiliar with that might be caused from your posture, some things that might creep up, like low energy, poor performance, reduced libido, sex drive, incontinence, inability to have regular bowel movements. All these things are affected by poor posture. And you can also get varicose veins and things like that. And all those other side effects that we talked about besides the pain, those are just basically RC factor problems. Okay, so pelvic floor, if that thing is weak, it's going to be hard to have regular bowel movements. They might be tough to pass, and it might also be difficult to go a long time without going to the bathroom. But those issues are all, pretty much, muscular anatomy issues. So, lack of integration. So the breathing mechanics can really affect our poor performance. It can affect our ability to sleep well. It can affect our libido, our sex drive, and our overall level of happiness and fulfillment. And that could all just be from an inactive inner unit muscle group or an inner unit muscle group that is not integrated properly. So there's going to be if that's the case, there's some dysfunction in one or more of the muscle groups in here. Generally, we see it in the TVA and the pelvic floor are two really major ones. And then also the multifidus tends to get muted in some people, or it gets to where one side is shut off, but the other side is working. But either way, any of those are pathologies that are going to lead to postural misalignment and most likely improper breathing mechanics, pain, and poor performance. And you also might want to look into previous injuries. And so a lot of times we get injuries that cause a compensated movement pattern. And even after the injury is healed, we've ingrained a new motor pattern into our body that it adopts even when it's out of pain. So you might be walking or sitting or posturing like you're trying to avoid pain that is no longer there. And then there's also issues of, stored trauma in the body. That's a real thing. You can look that information up. It's readily available. I've got book references for you if that's something you're interested in. But trauma stored in the body is a real thing. Is it a main causative factor? That's something that's really up for debate. but if nothing else, it can't be ruled out as a contributing factor. So old areas of trauma, unresolved issues, those store energy in the body, which create blockages, which influence the resistance contraction factor of the body, which can pull you out of alignment. And so speaking of causative factors, what are some things that can cause these muscle groups to be out of line? They can cause shapes in the spine like this and this. So some of the most common ones, obviously how we sit, how we drive, but some of the less common ones that we do that that aid in these pathologies or maybe increase the pain points, pain trigger mechanisms. Some very common ones: brushing your teeth, how you sleep, how you get out of bed, how you put your shoes on, how you posture when you're reading or on your phone. Are you mindful about your ergonomics when you're sitting at your desk? How about when you stand up? What's it feel like? So all these things that go on in our day that we might not pay much attention to, these are all direct feedback mechanisms for us. So if every time I stand up, I've got to do an extension because my lower back locks up, that's a signal from the body that you need to make an adjustment in how you're sitting. Okay, now we've kind of discussed some of the the pitfalls of having poor posture and some of the causative effects. And now we're going to talk about some things that you can do to correct your posture. So first thing you got to do is you've got to figure out what's tight, what's weak, what is tight and weak, what is tight and long, or what is long and weak. And so the best way to do that is go through a self stretch assessment. So this is off of my training site at PT Enhance, and this is directly derived from Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Paul Chek is my mentor. I study at his institute, the Chek Institute. The guy is just a wizard when it comes to holistic health, all things health, from the mental, emotional to the spiritual and the physical. But basically, I'll go through this slowly, but you're going to want to go through the series of stretches and really determine what's tight, what feels tight. And if it's not tight, don't stretch it. But generally, a lot of us are going to have that tightness up in the neck area, in the chest area, shoulders, particularly the front of the body if we're hunched over too much. But go through all these stretches, top to bottom, figure out what on you is tight and weak, or short and tight, and what is long and weak. And whatever is short and tight, you're going to want to stretch daily right before bed. Don't do it first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, you've got extra fluid in your vertebral discs. So for about the first hour, you're going to have extra traction in your back. And if you have postural misalignments and resistance contraction imbalances, that could risk injury and or further exacerbating those symptoms. Okay, so that's the stretch test sheet out of Paul Chek's How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, and off of my training site. And then you're gonna want to stretch what's short and tight, and you're also going to want to strengthen what's long and weak. Now we don't really have time in this video to go through a complete exercise regimen, but I don't want to leave you without any resources here. So I'm going to recommend this exercise here. This is commonly referred to as a horse stance in the Chek Institute. Some people call it a bird dog, whatever you want to call it. But this is a great exercise that involves almost all those muscle groups that we were talking about. This is for someone who's going to be hunched over, little what we call pronated in their body position. Now, if you're overly extended, this is one you might not want to look at. But majority of people, they're pronated, they're hyperkyphotic, and flat back. So this one is a great one. What you're going to want to do with this is just as the picture shows here, what you notice here, we got level pelvis. So you don't want one pelvis higher than the other. Got a pretty neutral spine. I would even recommend bending this elbow just a little bit, because if we're standing here in posture, this is almost mimicking a sway back just a little bit, right? You got the shoulders above the glutes here. So I would bend that elbow just a little bit to create an actual neutral spine that's going to look like what it would look like if you're standing up against a wall. Try to determine your spine, and then you're actually fighting gravity a little bit more there. But in this, so you want a neutral spine. What the picture's not showing here is you don't want to brace your core. So bracing your core is what you would do when you're really locking up your whole body, like you're doing a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift or something like that. Rather, you're going to want to provide a little bit of tension by pulling air into the cavity. So you're going to breathe in, and as you breathe in, your belly goes out just a little bit. You're going to exhale a little bit of air out, and then you're going to just draw your belly button in. Like you're putting on a tight pair of pants. You're going to draw that in and contract that inner transverse abdominis muscle. And then as you do that as well, you're going to really pull that pelvic floor in, like you're trying to stop the flow of urine and or feces. All that area down there, okay, you've got to contract it, suck it up. Okay. And from there, your diaphragm will do what it's supposed to do. Your internal, external obliques will do what your internal obliques will do what they're supposed to do. Your multifidi and your spinal erectors will do what they're supposed to do to stabilize this pelvis. And then you will really feel that burn down in there. More advanced version of the move would be to do a total body contraction as we do this. So that's really going to add stability, synergy, get the fascial network communicating with the muscle groups. Just a great exercise for you. And actually, we've compiled a body-mind biohacking guide for you guys for free. That's got several exercises in there for the core, provide core stability. This is one of them that's in there. It's really a great tool to find your holistic health, guys. It's got our 5 pillars of health and wellness on there. And in there, you can find where you're out of balance, if you are out of balance. And there's exercises in there for you to try to incorporate that pillar of wellness into your life. So go to biohacking.com/guide, download your free guide. All right. If this interests you, if this integrated health interests you, if it makes sense to you, how the body's tied into everything else, if that concept, like I said, intrigues you, but it's something you're not familiar with, download our guide. It'll get you a lot more familiar with those concepts, and it'll get you comfortable doing it because you can do it on your own pace. And these exercises are just nothing too challenging, but it's challenging enough to get the job done and to really get you attuned to that area of your wellness, whether that be how you think, how you move, how you breathe, what you're eating, what you're drinking. All that factors into your overall total health. And even in your posture, if you're eating things that you're intolerant of, that's going to shut down your inner unit core muscles and make it very challenging for you to stabilize your spine. Well, I appreciate you guys for joining me today. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything else you'd like for me to cover in future videos, please leave them down in the comments, or you can email me direct, jerry@biohackingtruth.com. And please don't forget to subscribe and share this with anybody that you think would find value in it. Posture is very important, guys. It literally affects how you feel 24/7. And the good news is you can really correct this in pretty short order. And I also want to add in there that, a lot of us are very, very used to going to the chiropractor quite often. And if that's the case for you, you can really cut down those chiropractor visits. So the good thing about a chiropractor is that they get you back in alignment. But the one thing that's missing is what caused that to get out of alignment. And so we talked about the RC factor before, the resistance contraction factor. And so basically, if I get pulled out of alignment, I got muscles that are a little too short and a little too tight to provide adequate alignment. And I got other muscle groups that are a little too long, a little too weak to provide adequate alignment. And if you've got a short, tight muscle pulling against a long, weak muscle, it's going to win every time, just like the braces. And so what a chiropractor does is he takes that adjustment. Let's say this side's short and tight, this side's long and weak, and gets pulled out like this. Well, that chiropractor goes in there and makes a manipulation and pulls you back. But this is still short and tight, and this is still long and weak. So just like the braces, it's just going to pull it right back. So this is a great ideology for you to use in conjunction with your chiropractor protocol. So, this stuff happens pretty darn quick, but it's not going to happen overnight. So if you're on a weekly chiropractor schedule, the good news is, as you go get adjusted and then you turn around and you go and you do your stretches and you do your corrective exercises, you and the chiropractor now become a dream team for getting yourself back in alignment. And if you are going to a chiropractor, I highly recommend that you go find one that's holistic minded, integrated, and they really focus on your T1, okay, or your C1, your atlas. Okay, that's your first vertebrae in the cervical column. And when that thing gets out of whack, like the whole structure is going to be out of whack. So if they can go and crack your middle back if they want, they can twist you, they can manipulate you. But if that C1 is out of alignment, you're just going to keep going back and you're going to end up looking like this cat. So this is the typical dysfunction of someone with an atlas subluxation. All right, so there's just some more tidbits for you. And I apologize if I went a little long here. I digressed a few times, and I have a tendency to do that. But if you enjoyed the video, like I said, please subscribe, like, and share it with anybody that you think could find value in it. And reach out to us at any time. Book a call if this is interesting to you. We'd love to talk to you about your situation. Jerry@biohackingtruth.com, biohackingtruth.com, biohackingtruth.com/guide.